Welcome back, everybody, and we are recording today. Jordan, we are the list, but we should call ourselves Coast to Coast now, since you're all the way on the West Coast now, and I'm in a new place myself. But season 3 of the list is going to be starting out a lot different from the last couple.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's funny because each season so far has felt very different, and this is the first season in a really long time of Dolphins football that I haven't felt a lot of excitement. But then I heard that little jingle before we started recording here, and it roped me back in. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm excited for the season. I've just kind of like, and I hate to say it this way, but the division and the grumpiness and the pro or anti Tua, the pro or anti Greer, the pro or anti McDaniel stuff, I just didn't want to deal with it. So I've basically isolated myself from the Dolphins community aside from our Discord. And even then, it's just been in and out for a little bit. I've been focusing on soccer. It's been a lot less stressful. I went to Daytona for Rock Allegiance, or not Rock Allegiance, Welcome to Rockville back in May. So I've just been living my best life. And now it's back to Dolphins. So I got to get back into all this division. But I'm excited. I actually do have a lot of excitement for the season. And really, today, all we're going to do, it's not going to be a long episode, but we're just going to go ahead and look through the position groups and just talk a little bit about each of them. So, Jordan, I know you have our lads ready. So, why don't we go ahead and take a look here? And let's just start with every Dolphins discussion is going to start with, and that's quarterback. We said this last year. Tua, got to stay healthy, bro. Basically, all you got to say, if Tua's healthy, I think the floor for this team, if he plays every game, is 10 wins. I think that's the floor.
Yeah, I think when you look at this quarterback room and you start with Tua, obviously health is the biggest concern. And this, more than even seasons in the past, I don't think that there's a way that you exit this season without a definitive answer on Tua. I think that even going through the same situation again and going through injuries and up and downs will result in probably a quarterback change going into next year, or at least heavily looking at one. But this isn't a prediction show. This is just talking about the position groups. But I do think that Tua is going to come back and be ready to go and play at a high level. When he's on the field, that's not a major issue. We are a good football team, or at least a better football team, when he's in the game, and him being in the game is going to put us in position to at least compete in every game. The one thing I am excited for, as we're talking about this room as a whole, I'm a lot more excited for Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers, a lot more than I was last year with Skylar Thompson and Mike White. I think that this group, you have a former number 2 pick. Last year we had a former 7th round pick. And then you have a guy that was highly regarded in college football. That was a quarterback of a team that was in the playoff. And they come in and kind of get to sit and learn this offense and study and be a part of those meetings, and be a part of those roundtables, and be a part of prepping week in and week out. And I'm excited to see what Quinn Ewers looks like as a backup quarterback in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think he's a guy that can be a Gardner Minshew type backup quarterback where you trust him to come in and win a game or two.
Yep. And this time last year, he was considered the favorite to be the first overall selection.
Yeah.
So it just shows how much things change. Honestly, I think you and I talked about during the draft review, once the 5th round hit, I was like, I'm fine taking Quinn Ewers in any round. As Dolphins fans, we've made fun of Zach Wilson quite a bit in his career. I'd like to think he is a better backup than Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson. You'd like to think.
Absolutely. And I think that sitting last year in Denver and watching the success that Bo Nix had and the way he did it, and sitting behind a guy like Sean Payton is really going to put Zach Wilson into a position to catapult himself, even if, again, just like Quinn Ewers, that's as a backup quarterback. These are guys that we are not relying on going into the season to be starters. And they're guys that we are going to the season looking to learn and grow. And if you're looking at guys to grow, a former number 2 pick who fell off, and then a guy who was once regarded as a potential number 1 pick who fell off, those are great reclamation projects.
Yep. And like I said, all I'm expecting is one of them to be better than Skylar Thompson if it's called upon. That is my bare minimum. And if you, because I still believe this, if we had even bad backup play last year, we win one or two extra games. We didn't even play. We had awful backup play.
Absolutely.
Let's move to running back. I see a lot of people getting super hyped about the running back room. I'll be honest, outside of Achan, it's a lot of who knows for me. Jalen Wright, I see a lot of people hyping him up in the last couple weeks online. Didn't show me enough. And this is not a Jalen Wright dig, though I was not a huge fan of the pick, more so because I didn't really know a lot about him. But he just didn't when he got called upon, he didn't really show me enough. He struggled with his blocking assignments. Madison, he's fine. Ollie Gordon, again, he had bad film last year, but Oklahoma State was bad. But I do like Ollie Gordon. So really, to me, after Achan, you could tell me any of these guys is the main backup, and I would not be shocked by it.
Yeah, Alexander Madison's a weird one, and I'll start with him because I could totally see him having an effective breakout season or a comeback season, and I could also see him not making the team going into week one. I could totally see a guy like Nate Noel, a guy like Ollie Gordon having a good camp, and you go with Achan and the 3 young bucks. I could see him not having a good camp and us bringing another veteran in. And then I can also see him being productive in this offense, a lot like Raheem Mostert was. I am excited about Achan. I'm a little worried about his health. And looking at this depth chart tells me that he's going to be used a lot more as a running back than he is as an offensive weapon, as we talked about last year. Yeah. And when I say I'm concerned about his health, I'm not worried about him being injury prone. I'm more worried about him taking those number one running back reps at a very high level when you don't have you look at a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs had a David Montgomery. You look at Achan last year or 2 years ago had Mostert. And I think that last year, a lot of that kind of fell to the wayside, where this year, I think Achan is going to be asked to be a real running back one. And after you talk about Tua, I think one of the next big things to get this offense going is going to be Achan taking that next step to where he is regarded, if you want to talk about fantasy football, is regarded as a top tier, top half of round one pick. To earn that status, he's going to have to take a major step forward this season.
Yep. And again, shout out to our friend Eric Smith, too. He does have a very good video breaking down all the run stuffs that our offense had. A lot of it was just Mostert making the wrong read. And Mostert's gone. No disrespect to Raheem Mostert, but the reads from the running backs, because Achan was guilty, too. They just weren't making the right reads in the run game. There's some tight end issues, too. We'll get to tight ends in a little bit. Let's go to wide receivers next. We'll just go down the list. Wide receiver will be fine. You and I talked about, I think everybody freaking out that Wes Welker got fired was overreacting just because of the name and they recognize it. I think most of us want Tyreek Hill gone, but we knew it wasn't going to happen just because of the contract and everything. He's basically on a 1-year deal. I expect a bounce back from Waddle. I like Malik Washington.
I'm coming back to you, Brett. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go like that. There you go.
Okay. Nick Westbrook, Akeem, and NWI. I think he's an upgrade. I think Malik Washington and him are going to be better options than we had. I know a lot of people like the 2 UDFAs we have, Andrew Armstrong and Theo Weiss. Not even going to pretend I know anything about either of them. Maybe they earn a spot. I think the running game, I think the wide receivers will be a step up. NWI is going to make the blocking a lot better, which was an issue in the slot last year. I think we were all expecting for 2 years Braxton Berrios to be something he ended up not being. I think everybody thought OBJ would at least be okay, and he was awful. So you can't get much worse. I'm expecting a bounce back from the 2 stars. So I got no complaints about them. And I also think I'm blanking on the name. What's the former Houston offensive coordinator we brought in who's now going to help with passing game?
You put me on the spot here.
Yeah, his brother's on
Oh, I don't know, man.
I just forgot the name off the top of my head. I know this, and I'm just like, but he was brought in to help the passing game, and I think he's
Bobby
gonna.
Slowick.
Yep, there we go, Bobby Slowick. I think he's gonna help a lot.
I
But
saw his. It's one of those you see his face, and you're like waiting for it.
yeah, yeah, I have no concerns about the wide receiver room. I'm expecting a big bounce back year from them.
Yeah, I'm expecting a huge bounce back year from Tyreek and Jalen, and they're really what makes that room tick. I think Akina is going to be a huge upgrade at receiver 3 from what we had with OBJ and that kind of thing. Though that crop of the Barrios, the OBJ, the Craycraft, what we had in there last year. Akina is more to me of that Sherfield mold, where he's going to make some big plays. He's going to catch. He's reliable in the red zone. We've talked about many times how many touchdowns he had last year. But he was a guy, even in the offseason and going into the offseason, that you and I said were going to be really good fits for this offense next to Tyreek, next to Jalen. And in those packages and those plays where McDaniel loves to take one or even both of them off the field, you're going to obviously fall off going to him. But you're not going to fall off, I think, to the extent that you fell off last year, where it was like you couldn't complete a pass if those guys weren't on the field.
Yep.
You skipped over Andrew Armstrong and Theo Weiss. I do think that both those are going to be guys that at some point in camp, you're like, oh, wow, can those guys make the roster? Because they did have reliable college careers. And I think that they are products of the receiver groups in every NFL draft being so deep that there's less of a need for middle of the roster guys. And they're both definitely guys that can make this roster.
Yeah, I know they're both taller receivers, which we need. Let's be honest, we need that.
I think that they're both better than Preston Williams.
Yeah. Well,
I think they're both better than Eric Ezukama.
Yeah, probably. I am interested to see how Taj Washington does, but he'd probably be just a return man. Can we agree that Malik Washington's probably going to be the breakout of the offense, though?
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And he's going to be the guy that in a game or a drive that Tyreek sits, it's not going to be Waddle stays the 1 and then Akina moves up to the 2, whatever. No, Washington will essentially turn into the number 1 or the number 2 receiver anytime Tyreek or Waddle are off the field. I think that he's a guy that is a faster Jarvis Landry. He's one of those culture guys that are going to be very reliable for a very long time. And even a little more than I talked about those other guys. I'm excited to see what Taj Washington can do, especially in the return game.
Okay. Let's save the offensive line for last because everybody loves talking about the offensive line. Go to tight end, which got a little more drama this offseason than I expected.
Yeah.
Johnny deserved a contract extension, but I think even he came out and said the Dolphins were honest and said we can't afford it to give you an extension, which I fully respect. We got him to a place he can make more money. Kind of wish we would have hit tight end a little earlier in the draft now. But what did we say most of the last 2 years? Durham Smythe was unrosterable. He's gone. I see Chicago Bears fans thinking they got a steal, and I have no idea what games they've watched. He's gone. Julian Hill, he was pretty unrosterable last year too. I do think a lot of the issue was he just wasn't ready for the role he was asked to do. Just flat out. He was an undrafted rookie out of Campbell.
He's not going to be asked to do a different job this year.
Yes, he's going to be more doing what he was doing as a rookie, where he's basically another Alec Ingold. He's not going to be the main inline blocker. That'll be Pharaoh Brown, who I do think is an upgrade as the inline blocker.
Absolutely. Pharaoh Brown is the biggest upgrade on this line. Mm-hmm. Like he's going to be the guy that towards the end of the year, people think, oh, he's going to be our tight end 1. I think that is, I personally am pretty set on that.
Yep. As for Julian Hill, I'm not fully convinced he's safe. I'm not saying he's not, but I think Jalen Conyers making this team.
Yeah, I think that Conyers will end up being that next receiver threat after
Mhm.
Waller and Brown, before Julian Hill. I mean, Julian Hill, like you said, will be used more in an Ingold
Yeah.
role. I think Conyers will pretty quickly pass up Tanner Connor in that role.
Yeah, I'm not even considering Connors.
Yeah,
Like, sorry, you've been here. What's this, year 4 or 5?
and by saying that, I think Pharaoh Brown's going to have a good year. I don't want to discredit Darren Waller. We don't know what we're getting out of Darren Waller.
Well, I was intentionally leaving him for last.
And what we do know about Darren Waller, if we're going off what we know, okay, he has had a lot of success under Frank Smith.
That's what I was going to say. Look, I think you and I were two of the only people who were like, Jonnu is going to be a big pickup. Am I going to say Darren Waller is going to be Jonnu? No, I'm not going to say that.
Absolutely not.
Keep in mind, like you said, his best years are under Frank Smith, where he was probably a top, maybe not top 5, but a top 10 tight end in the league.
He was closer to 5 than 10.
Yeah. He gets traded to the Giants. That was a disaster. How he acted with the Giants is on him, and retiring, that is on him, and I'm not excusing that. But I don't know if Dolphin fans realize how much of a shit show the Giants have been for a couple years. So,
I mean, look at that offense. I mean, you have Saquon went and won the Eagles a Super Bowl. Then you turn and Daniel Jones is looking competent in Indy. And then look at all the guys that have left that team that was an inside thing. And Darren Waller is the type of guy that needs the inside nucleus to be strong in order for him to be successful. Do I think the Dolphins have that? I'm not sure. But do I think it's been proven that Frank Smith has been able to get production out of Darren Waller? Yes. And that particularly right there is what excites me about this trade.
Would you say a fair expectation is doing half of what Jonnu did last year?
The fair expectation is that the room as a whole gets better because our receiver core is going to have a little more production than they had last year.
Yep. Okay. And Pharaoh Brown is basically an extra offensive lineman.
Yeah. So you look at Pharaoh Brown, you look at Darren Waller, you look at Julian Hill, you look at Jalen Conyers. Waller and Conyers are going to be asked to play a role, and Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill are going to be asked to play their roles. And if I could definitely see a scenario where this tight end group as a whole is better than last year's tight end group.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Didn't mention Hayden Rookie. Shout out to him. He was on the dive bar the other day. I want him to make the team. I think he could very easily make a team. I think with us, he's probably a year away because I think he is ultimately going to be Alec Ingold's replacement.
Yeah, I think he spends another year on the practice squad. I think he makes the roster as a practice squad guy, and we kind of see how long we could ride that out and kind of see what he looks like going into year 3 of an NFL development plan.
Yep. Now for the favorite topic, offensive line. It's still a big question, but I'm honestly not that worried about it. If James Daniels is back from his Achilles, clear upgrade.
For the pun intention, I'm more worried about it than you are.
Yes. Yeah, I like what you did there. Jonah, just right now it's the contract situation, which it sounds like.
Jonah what?
Savanea.
I think you're right. I think it's Savanea. It's either Savanea or Savanaya, but I think you're right.
Yeah. That's going to be a contract issue just because now it looks like second-round picks are getting fully guaranteed contracts this year.
Just give them the fully guaranteed contract. I don't care. Give him the fully guaranteed contract, get his big butt on the field, and let's go to work. Stop it. Enough of this.
Yep. So let me say it this way. If our starters are healthy, big if, I think the offensive line will be fine. I think if Patrick Paul is just mediocre, we'll be great. The offense will be great. As for everybody else, I've said this to you. I don't know if I said it on the show, but I said it privately. I do not think people take into consideration Keon Smith getting hurt the first week of preseason last year, how much that hurt us, because I think he was going to be one of our top 2 backups.
I agree with you. However, and we've talked about it last year, we've talked about what I'm about to say since if you go back to the archives and go to season 1, episode 1, you will probably hear what I'm about to say. If we're going into a game any of Keon Smith, Jackson Carman, Andrew Meyer, Liam Eichenberg, or Larry Barham, or Braden Daniels, or Ryan Hayes are starting a game, I'm going to be watching the game like this.
I don't think if Jackson Carman makes the team, someone is being very stubborn. Because I'll say this. What do you think? We're keeping 8 offensive linemen or 9?
So it's funny. I had a couple minutes before we went on, and I was curious when looking at this. In his 3 years as coach, McDaniel has kept 9 or 8 offensive linemen on opening day every year. 8 was last year because we cut Jack Driscoll right before week 1. But so to me, I think the number is going to be 9, but I'm not 100% sure.
So I think the starters I think Larry Borum's making the team. Yes, he was awful with Chicago. I'm not saying it's going to be happen, but if he gets adequate in a new system, he wouldn't be the first nor the last for that to happen. But I think he's making the team.
Was Larry? Correct me if I'm wrong. Larry Borum. He was, and again, you're going to have to refresh my memory here, and you're better at some of this than I am. It was either he was really good at left tackle and really bad at right tackle, or vice versa. Well, let me correct myself. He was okay at one of them and really bad at the other.
Yeah. He's probably not. If he's starting at tackle, you're going to have a long day. You got to give him help. But he was really bad at right tackle. Like, it was awful.
So what you're telling me is Keon Smith is our only backup tackle right now that you feel comfortable with. That you personally, because you like Keon Smith, feel comfortable with.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's not uncommon in the NFL, but I think either way, what I was getting at is Barham and Keon Smith making the team, Ike's making the team, and I think they're going to give Andrew Meyer.
Yes, the amount of sacks we give up is uncommon in the NFL. That's what's uncommon. Add another tackle.
Well,
like, it's crazy that I'm on year 33, and I'm still like, why can't we figure out this offensive line then?
It's a fair question. It's still going to be an issue, but it's one of those things where I hate to say it this way because a lot of people were asking for it. After Savonette, it was a weird year for getting offensive linemen because all the good ones were basically projecting to go inside. Like, even Will Campbell, who everybody loved, I think he's a guard. I do not think he's a tackle in the NFL. He's not the only one. Could we have done more? Yes, I would have brought more than just Daniels and Borum. But you see some of the contracts where people are getting, and you don't want to get into those bad contracts with mid. Like, the one thing I will say, and this is a backhanded compliment, it's not really made a compliment either. It's saying, I'd rather suck paying Larry Barham nothing than paying Larry Barham like 4 years, $50 million, like some of these guards are getting or tackles are getting. And he's backup. It's still a concern, but I do think for some of them, now the fact that they even brought Ike back and he's not as bad as a backup, but the fact that they were even comfortable bringing Eichenberg back is a concern.
Larry Borum should be looking at this depth chart, and everybody that's watching this can see this depth chart. Larry Borum should be in the slot where Ike is, and there should be a different player where Larry Borum is.
I would agree with that.
But there should also be a different player where Jackson Carman is.
Yeah, I would not have brought Jackson Carman back.
Mr. S loves him some Jackson Carman.
Yeah. I will still say with the system we run, and if this is the bigger if we don't get stubborn and constantly go for the big play and keep committed to the run game, we should have 9 guys and have a competent offensive line with any of these people. Should we have done better? Absolutely. But if we commit to the running game like this system is built around everywhere else in the NFL, you should have an adequate offensive line. I fully believe that.
All right, Brett, before we go to defense, looking at this full list, if you had to pick one player from this list that people aren't talking about right now, that they will be talking about by September 6th or whatever the day of week 1 is, who's the one player that people should be talking about?
I'll just stick with my normal and just say Jalen Conyers, just because he brings something that we lack athleticism at tight end. Like, yes, we have Darren Waller now too, but he gives us something else we don't have in the receiving game, which is size. So I think he's someone that the team is going to want to try and get involved early. And yeah, he's just big athletic guy who can also take wildcat snaps as a tight end. So I think he is going to be the guy that as we get into preseason and Dolphins have one undrafted guy every year, I think he's going to be the guy that people are going to be talking about.
For me, it's funny. I'm also going with an undrafted guy, and it's Nate Noel. I think that every year Dolphins fans fall in love with a running back. And I think he's going to be the guy this year. I think he's obviously not Achane, but he has some of those same qualities and a little bit of that same style. And I think that come preseason time, especially the second half of those games, you're going to see him get a lot of carries. And I think you're going to see him push a guy like Alexander Madison for that last spot. And if not, make the practice squad to where you're ready to pull him up the second something happens to one of those guys.
Yep, fair enough.